Hello and welcome to Maltbox. I'm Andy and this is Whisky review number 17. What I've got for you today is a Speyside single malt whisky, and it's another one from the famous Glenfiddich Distillery. And what that is the 15-year-old Distillery edition. The cat's here again. Let's hope that he doesn't mess anything up this time. Now, hopefully you saw that. Please tell me you do, because my autofocus seems to be playing up a bit at the moment. The Glenfiddich Distillery edition, as I mentioned previously, is 15 years old. It's bottled at 51%. It's non-chill filtered, and it retails at around £50. It's quite a nice colour. It doesn't look too fake, shall we say, but I suppose you never know, do you? So, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to nose it neat at full strength, 51%, and then I'll put a bit of water in it. Okay. Now, it was matured in ex-American and European oak, so two different wood types, two different cask types, should I say. It's very, even at full strength, it's a little bit of a spirity note in there, but it's very fruity and very floral, quite sweet as well. Like nutmeg, cinder toffee, like crunchy bars. Good consistency. Again, the palate is really very sweet. I think sort of like strawberry compote, very red berry fruits really. A bit of vanilla in there. Again, really oily. Brandy snaps. Really nice long spicy finish. So it's a good start. It is a good start. So I'll put a bit of water in there. Put 2 teaspoons in. So it is very different from the standard 15 Solera. It's also a bit more expensive at 50 quid, but you don't see it very often. A distillery of Glenfiddich size releasing a main range whisky, as it were, at this sort of strength. Obviously you've got your Glenlivet Nadura, which we looked at recently, which does something very similar. You know, I mean, kudos to Glenfiddich for giving it a try, for giving it a go. It's relatively easy to get hold of, but I think your best bet is probably to get it online from your whisky exchanges and your master of malts, because it's not very often that you see it in your supermarkets unless it's quite a big one. So, yeah, I mean, packaging's quite nice. You know, they've got the pagoda roofs on there and a bit of a different colour from the rest of the range, but is what it is. Right, so water's been in there a little while. Let's see what we've got in there this time. Yeah, that water really has actually helped it quite a bit. It was promising to start with, but now it's sort of unlocking those other layers that were quite tightly compact. It is still very floral, but it's very sort of summer blossomy, cherry blossom kind of fragrance now. It's still very crisp, very precise spirit, very clean spirit. Like granite, wet granite. There's also a bit of heat and spice in there, so I think black peppercorns. Again, going back to that oiliness, I wouldn't say it's olive oil, it's more oriental than that. Sort of like a bit sweet and thicker. Think of like a sesame seed oil or something like that you'd use in Chinese cooking. Actually quite nutty as well. I'm thinking either walnuts or Brazil nuts, one of the two, probably just slightly leaning over to the walnut side. Because they are really quite oily, aren't they? And they've got quite a unique flavour. I mean, it's going back to that sweetness again. I'm not going to say honey. I think it's more of a not as quite a rich sweetness, if you know what I mean. It's more of an icing sugar, you know, something that sort of gets your nose tingling a little bit. And again, it is very clean. It's actually quite light, but it does have these nice rich red fruits behind it as well. It's promising so far. A bit of apple in there as well towards the end. Let's try it on the palate. The water's taken what remained anyway, of the spirity edge, like the rough edges. It's creamy. It is creamy. Your strawberry jam's there again, but think of a strawberry jam sandwich on brown bread. So you've got a little bit of graininess and wholemeal flavour in there as well. Vanilla. I wouldn't say vanilla custard, I would say like a vanilla bean paste. Because you know it is quite concentrated. The apples are back. Apples are there as well, with some of that berry fruit. So think of like an apple and blackberry pie or apple and blackberry crumble. Just going back to the nose, just as I was about to take another sip, a little tiny hint of leather in there. Not quite. I wouldn't say there's any smoke in there. I think it's probably a little touch of sort of like oak mingled in with that leather as well, like a sandalwood kind of note going on. Again, it's spicy. You've got the red berry flavours that are actually quite prominent. Maybe a bit of an apricot jam in there as well now. And I think on the palate you do get a bit of honey as well. So it's got that going for it. It's quite buttery, which again links into that sort of like oiliness and the creaminess as well. Finish, it's quite long, not as long as on the full strength, I must say. I think the water does actually take a little bit out of the finish, unfortunately. I think I prefer the finish as it was. But again, you've got those sort of like berry fruits, you've got the oak influence on there. It's quite long, it's warming, and it's very well rounded. I think it's a very, very good spirit indeed that they've put together for this release, and it is a step away from, I think, what they do release normally. Because I wouldn't say that actually tasted like a Glenfiddich, which I know might sound a bit odd, but you know, when you think of the 12 and the standard 15 and maybe even the 18, I don't really see much in common between them, but that's just me. I don't mean that in a bad way at all. It's a very, very good whisky indeed. And on that note, I'm going to give this little beauty an 85 out of 100. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.